Hello and welcome to this video on job interviews. So far, we have been mainly talking about dynamics and what are the functionalities that dynamics offers. While all that is nice and good to learn about, we eventually need to also prepare for that one important thing, and that is for the job. And therefore, job interviews are very important. So that's why in this video, we'll talk about job interviews. There are a few bullets that I have prepared to sort of understand the journey that we're going to take while preparing for these job interviews. Starting off with resume. The most important part is your resume because that is the one that gets you shortlisted for an interview. And in resume making, you need to write your resume, but you also need to memorize it. And then we have the LinkedIn. And then what's also important, which we have been learning in the past, is the tool knowledge or the skill sets that you have gained in the past few months or years. Then we talk a little bit about your experiences that you respect. And it can be your work experience, your education, or your life experiences. Then we talk about company know-hows. We talk about the work attitude. We talk about miscellaneous things that can be prompted or asked in an interview. And last but not the least, the question that you need to ask to the interviewer. Without any further delay, let's just get into the subject. So, our first point is indeed writing a resume. It's always quality over quantity. Keep sure that you limit your resume to 1 to 2 pages max. My resume is 1 page. I used to have 2 pages, but also more than that earlier. If you really are in a technical role and you want to showcase, then it's fine. But I think no one reads 3 or 4 pages. So the smaller your resume is, the easier recruiters feel to basically read through it. That's why what you need to have is a very strong summaries when at the start of your resume, and that's where most of the recruiters will skim away a resume. They will read your summary, and if it doesn't look impressive or worthwhile reading, they will just move to the next one. So it doesn't matter how good your quality is or your skill set is, you need to make sure that you make the biggest impact with your summary. And your summary basically summarizes who you are as a person, so what your current role is, what you will what are you looking for, and some of your key traits. So it could be a line or 2 or 3 lines max. And then, as I mentioned, you should resume learn your resume by heart. So you need to know the in and out, because what they're going to do is in an interview they're going to pick one of those details very randomly, especially the ones that really piqued their interest, and they're going to talk to you in detail. So you need to make sure that everything that you write in there is is true. It's the only quality that maximum resonates within you, the quality that you want to talk about. It's definitely not about how many things you have done in the life. It's about those important things that you really respect and you care about. So you only write about those things in your resume. So try to keep your resume focused to those important things in your life, that really matter to you, but also can be extremely valuable in this interview. And then finally, reading your resume somewhat every day. Why is it important? Because when you write your resume for the first time, it's basically your initial draft. It's definitely not the resume that you want to send to your recruiters. So make sure you read it every day, because the next day when you read that resume, you're going to make some changes in there, because you're going to say, "Oh, what was I thinking? Oh, this is a typo. Oh, this is something I want to write differently, or even is this even relevant?" So make sure you read your resume at least every day. This way you make your resume more crispy every day. So now that we've talked about resume, let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the platforms that is used for job hunting, but also to apply for jobs on a day-to-day basis. Here also the same concept is applicable, quality or quantity. It should be literally how how you have your Facebook or your Instagram profiles. You should be really invested in it to make sure that you look good, which means that you need to update your LinkedIn. You need to make sure that you add all the relevant experiences, but also talk about yourself. Use a nice picture. On a LinkedIn page, you also have headers. So basically something that summarizes you or what you're looking for in a line or so. So if you're looking for a new job and if you don't currently have a job, then you can write something seeking for blah blah roles, and then add what are your skill sets or what defines you as a person. Also, there's a page of or a section of a summary. So try to fill that in. Again, try to use things that people want to read and keep it very crisp. A good summary basically says what you do in your day to day life, on a job, what are your hobbies, and what really gets your passion going. Again, the same thing is valid here as well. Keep it crisp. And this is the most important part. Again, there is an option to add skill sets that you have. Please only add the skill sets that are applicable for your next job. Otherwise, it's just too much information, and then you lose the integrity of those skills, because when recruiters tend to see 10 skills or 100 skills, yeah, they're just going to think, okay, this guy probably knows everything. So please make sure you keep in mind that you only have the skills that are relevant for you. That's why I especially mentioned strictly quality over quantity, right? And then the next important thing which we have been learning in the past few days is basically the knowledge of the tool or the skill set, because we are learning for functional consultant dynamics. So the knowledge of dynamics is important, the knowledge of power platform is important, working with a tool such as Azure DevOps or Jira, where you know that a functional consultant or a developer would work through one of these systems, would also be handy to have. And then very important, which gives you an extra edge, is to learn about Microsoft releases, how often they are released, and what are your favorite features, what are the things that you like, what are the things that you dislike. Because if someone with technical background is trying to get those details from you, they would really enjoy to have one of these conversations where you talk about the feature that you like and go at lengths to describe it passionately, or something that you dislike where you clearly say, I'm not a really big fan because of blah 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 blah. Again, if you're going to pose an opinion, make sure that very you've thought about it in detail and you know your arguments. Otherwise, this can also work against you. And then this is something that I also consider as the content of an interview. When you are in an interview, normally you pose as if you are going to be interviewed and people are going to ask you questions. You can also play it smart. When you are in an interview, try to talk about those things that you definitely want to express, and you want the interviewers to know. For example, I do love to talk about my education, my higher education, and what I did, what were my experiences. So I try to bring that up anyways, and that gives me around a few minutes to talk about it, and then I get follow-up questions also on that. So that's nice, and that gives a very good impression on the interviewer. And this way you also drive the interview instead of the interviewer driving it. Again, the same goes for your life experiences. It can be bungee jumping, it can be backpacking, it can be following a hobby, it could be following a sport. Anything that you consider respectable for yourself, just try to speak it with the same passion and people will relate to it. And then the company know-hows. It's a small thing to prepare, but if you prepare it, again, you skip up that embarrassing part where some question is being asked to you and you don't know the answer to it. For example, know about the company, know about the CEO. So who's the CEO, what is the size of the company, and similar details. It's all available on Wikipedia, but also do go through their company page, see what's going on, who are the key important peoples. All of that is mentioned on the web page. Also, do know about the vision of the company. Yeah, so that also helps you, because it doesn't happen quite often, but sometimes in an interview you get those questions as well. And then, what's the work attitude? Just be yourself, because there are so many people and everyone is unique. You could be an introvert, you could be an extrovert, you could be funny, you could be quiet, you could be impatient. So just be yourself and it should be okay. This is actually one of the most important part, and this is the part that makes you courageous in an interview. Okay, so now we've talked about this. We're going to talk about some miscellaneous things that you may also see in an interview. People are going to ask about your strengths and your weakness because they want to know more about you. So again, this is where you can use your magic wand and say, these are the things that I like, these are the things I don't like, this is how I function, this is how I don't function, these are my strengths. I like to multitask. Some people say I don't like to multitask because that distracts me. Yeah? So you have to keep it very natural. And One of the important questions is, and this has to do with your ambition. How do you see yourself in 5 years? So, if you're applying for a consultant, the logical answer would be, I want to be a solution architect, wherein you're basically trying to design solutions for projects, but also it could be being the tech lead, where you're responsible for a lot of colleagues and you help them with all the technical challenges that they face in the day-to-day life. Why did you apply for this job? It's also an important. So it could be anything. It could be the challenge, or maybe you're not finding enough challenging in your previous job, or maybe you are starting all over again, or maybe you were off for a lot of years. But that's all okay. So you don't need to worry about a reason. A reason could be anything, and people will respect that as long as you know about it, you own it. Okay. And then sometimes you're also asked for an elevator pitch, where you're given 30 seconds with a CEO in an elevator. What would you pitch? What would be your idea about it? So that is something you could also prepare. I never liked the elevator pitch myself, but I'm sure you can come up with something while doing the preparation for this. And then the last part is, and this happens in most of the interviews, at least the interviews that I like, where you're asked, or they ask you if you have any questions for them. So yeah, it gives only a good impression if you have some questions, and I'm sure you will have questions, because you're preparing for an interview that is super huge. It's so big in your life, so you're also curious to know about them as much as they're curious to know about you. So you can have questions around, what's your work from home policy, or what is the company culture like, what do you promote, what do you not promote, or how does the learning work, am I entitled to do certifications or follow an education in a university, how does the company support me with that, or how does a day look like for me as a consultant in your company, what is the team like, do we go for extracurricular activities, or do we do some events? So these are some of the most important questions that you can ask the interviewer. But again, so the best question is the one that you genuinely have when preparing for the company. And don't be shy to ask those questions. As long as they are appropriate, you're more than welcome to ask them. So please don't be shy about it, because they will be the right questions to ask if you feel like. But these were all the things that I want to talk about when preparing for an interview. I hope this was useful. In case you have any questions, and if there are any questions that I was not able to cover with this video, feel free to ask them on the comments. Yeah, and good luck.